call to order this meeting of the Caledonia Township Board of Trustees. This is our regular meeting of February 19th, 2025. Item 1 is roll call. I will call the roll. Mr. Snoink.
Here.
Mr. Hermanette.
Here.
Mr. Bradshaw.
Here.
Mr. Harrison's here. Ms. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Zoller.
Here.
Mr. Robertson is absent with notice. Item 2 is Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for us gathering this evening and the honor that we have to be here, serving our friends and neighbors, guide our work, help us to do good in the will of those who sent us here. Be with those who protect us while we're here in the police, fire, and military. Give them protection, comfort to their families. We give thanks for our community and for our friends and family. We ask this all in your name. Amen. Item 3, consideration of the meeting agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, clarifications regarding tonight's agenda?
Move approval is noted.
Support.
Move that we approve the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And it is approved. Item 4, public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comment? Seeing none. Item 5, inquiry of conflict of interest. Board members, does anyone have an interest in any of the listed items? Seeing none. Item 6, approve the consent agenda. I will note that there's a number of resolutions on here that require a roll call vote, so that's we'll do them all at once if they're all to be approved favorably. If not, we can remove them and discuss them and then vote if you feel you're going to dissent on the approval of any of those.
Make a motion.
We approve the consent agenda.
Moved by Hermanette, support by Zoller, that we approve the consent agenda. I'll call the roll. Snoink.
Aye.
Hermanette.
Yes.
Bradshaw votes
Yes.
aye. Harrison votes yes. Henry.
Yes.
And Mr. Zoller.
Yes.
And the items are approved.
Nice job with Lon. Getting him, that's awesome.
When's he shaving his beard?
Soon.
He's offering to do a fundraiser, believe it or not. I'm like 12 years of hair. There might be something.
Oh, there,
Oh,
there, oh,
my
there it is.
goodness.
There's the guy.
Well,
You just missed the,
he had a beard
Oh, we
to
did.
here.
Oh,
So-
I didn't know that.
You've just been approved. Welcome. Hey there, Lon. All right, item 7, we have received a number of board and committee officer and staff reports. Any questions, comments on those? Item 8 is correspondence. We have received a letter from T-Mobile. We do have leases with a number of cell companies who place their equipment on our water tower. It's time to renegotiate the agreement we have with T-Mobile. They have merged with Sprint, and so they're looking to not only consolidate their lease, but they're also looking to reduce the rent rate. There is an escalation built into it, but it starts by scaling it back. So the terms are, the current terms are $19.05 per month or $22,865 per year. They're requesting a reduction to $1,800 per month or $21,600 a year. We have resisted reductions in the past, but there is kind of an erosion. It stops them from going to a tower elsewhere. If it was a greater reduction, I'd say let's push back harder. I'd like to keep them paying, but with this amount, by the time we go to attorneys and things like that, I don't think it's worth the difference. So I would support the renewal as presented, but I'm open to discussion as well. Just to note that the funding doesn't go to general fund, so we really aren't able to do anything with it other than reduce the cost to users on the water system. It offsets their costs and pays for the operations of the system.
Just I wish I knew more about what all of them did. You know, I mean, like how many of these are reduced like this? Is this a common practice? Is this something? But didn't we have this last time we had to renew it?
They always ask for reduction. We sometimes counter. I'm sure if we said keep it the same, they might just say okay. But again, do we do that through attorneys? Do we take Allison's time for $1,000? I think it's pragmatism to just kind of seal the deal.
Well, they want an escalation at 5 years, 8%,
What was the old one?
Do you know what the multiplier was? The increase?
I don't know what the multiplier was for the increase.
So their previous were 1945, and they probably had a 8% increase.
I'd make a motion we approve.
I support it.
Discussion? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
And it is approved. Item 9A, this is a resolution to approve an easement agreement and matters related to, for the Kettle Preserve development. We do have a memo produced by our manager, and Allison, you can present to the board.
Absolutely. So one of the conditions of the Kettle Preserve was for them to have a shared use pathway. In order for that to be recorded, it has to be through a motion to approve the resolution for their pathway easement. They reached out to us, they provided us the documents and the legal description, and Township has to just approve the resolution.
Okay, board, with that as an understanding, is there any discussion on the Kettle Preserve shared use pathway easement?
I'm concerned that the easement doesn't go through the private drive right away. So my understanding, of course, with the private drive is that the residents and the HOA would take care of it. But the trail itself, I think that we are generally signing up to own and maintain, and that doesn't appear to be covered. And I would hate for those two pieces that are gonna tie into the road someday to fall into disrepair because we wouldn't have access onto the property to take care of them. So I guess I'm interested in others' opinions.
So I think we can fix this.
It stops and starts at the,
Show me,
So the
so in
road
that
will
sense,
be
they were probably
here
trying to do us a
and here.
favor in the sense, well, we'll put the pavement
Doesn't
down,
go
you don't
through the
have to,
drive.
but we don't have
The
a
easement.
clear right of way. Gotcha.
So I think the easiest way to have them come up with an updated survey showing the drive, because the drive is in, and our easement going right to the drive. I think that's the direction I would suggest.
to the drive or through?
Well, it needs to be
No,
through,
we don't have to maintain it. It's an easement, but this is a maintenance. The HOA maintains the road. We don't maintain the road.
so as it crosses the driveway,
Mm-hmm.
the question becomes,
It needs to go
one,
up
do we need
to-
a defined and clear just right to cross the driveway? The answer is yes. Two, do we want to be required to maintain that? They can send us a 1% bill when they repave it because it's benefiting the trail or something like that.
No, I think you're not understanding what he's asking.
Well, it's,
What he's asking is they don't show us the road currently as built.
got it.
And this is, we're assuming 70 feet, because across the street it says 70 feet.
Mhm.
Typical private drives are no more than 66 feet. So there could be a section where it isn't a road, but this pathway shows up to each end of this roadway without being built. So the suggestion is have them show a survey with the road as built and our easement going right up to the road on each side. So on the north and south side.
And we were talking about Kettle Oak Drive,
Yes.
Yes.
okay?
And you don't
Yeah.
think we need, sorry, go ahead, Dale.
I was gonna say, the other thing that worries me about that is, with cars coming, I mean, is it gonna be marked? Is it gonna have
Striping.
stripe there, and
Yeah.
what, from a liability standpoint, I mean, we gotta. I
We
can see
don't have
cars
that
going-
currently.
What's that?
We don't have that currently at.
Or it crosses driveways,
Correct.
streets. That's true over on,
Yeah.
you know, McCord's.
Wait,
Or
there's,
do we?
yeah, we do.
On streets we do,
On
not on
streets, we
driveways.
do.
On streets, but not
Yeah.
on, not on.
Because there's
This is
even
a
the
street.
blind bumps and stuff.
It seems a little disjointed, I mean, with just doing it to the road to me. I mean,
Well, this is where we're supposed to maintain it after the fact.
Which we may desire the ability to go in and pave straight through.
So you wanna do a 4-foot, or 5-foot.
I mean, if we're redoing the trail, or in this sense, doing the trail,
It's not gonna cost us much, but then are we gonna have to pay to
Yeah,
plow it?
We gonna start
Well,
doing
I
that
don't
on
think-
every road our trail
Right.
comes up to?
yeah, but I don't think, I mean, if we're gonna plow, which we're talking of doing anyway, starting next year, we're not gonna stop there and then go around it and go, you know what I mean?
We really need an easement.
Yeah,
Easement doesn't
But you have to
obligate
have
you
the,
to take care of it.
what I believe Trustee Bradshaw's concern was, is this easement doesn't go up to
Right.
the end of each, you know, the north and south ends of the street without showing. It doesn't show that.
So should we refer it back to amend the easement?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion to that regard?
Motion refer back to
Support.
show the current road.
Okay, a motion that we ask them to amend the easement to show crossing the street, made by Zoller, support by Hermanette. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. And is returned to them and will return to us once it's corrected. 10A is a presentation of the 2024 year in review by Fire Chief Scott Seiler.
Okay, this worked earlier, so. Came up on the screens and then it took a minute for it to come up there, so hopefully we'll, look at that. Okay. All right, thank you, everybody. It's that time of year, we're kind of want to give you a little synopsis of what 2024 looked like for us. Most of these slides are derived from questions from the board, and a lot of you have been on the board for many years, so I hope I'm answering questions that you have generally year to year. If you have anything, please stop me along the way. I'd be glad to answer it, and if it's something you'd like to see next year or put together and follow up this year and also put it in for next year, but I just kind of want to give you the data that everybody's looking for here. So again, stop me anytime. And come on. So just starting out with a couple of personnel. I know one of the things to talk about later is people have been around for a while. Todd Kortenhoven was with us for 15 years. He stepped down. It was kind of a medical related issue. So wasn't something I really wanted to do, but was with us for quite a while. And then we have the Kerber brothers, both came to us in 2019. Brad Kerber was one of our 5 that we hired when we went 24 hours back in 2019. And if you can imagine, I believe there is only 6 people, maybe 7 ahead of them on seniority. So it used to be 5 years was a new person for us, and 5 years is getting to be a seasoned veteran. So a lot of turnover, as you can imagine, we're all experiencing that. So speaking of staffing, we have 3 new hires. These are the ones that came in middle of the summer, I believe, last year. They're in the fire academy currently right now, so they came to us with no prior experience. So they're in the academy now. We're going to roll them right in the EMT class this spring. And believe it or not, one of the things kind of planned, now that we've approved Lon as one of our new hires as well too, we're looking at putting them in class first. EMT, it's something they can help us with. 77% of our calls are medical, and we've just always done it well. We let them have the summer and then come in, but we're gonna see if it works with the schedule. We might put them in the EMT class first, so we can do more for us right away. So this interesting thing, we always talk about how many calls we had. I think I put that in our update that was a record year for us still. And as I looked at this graph, it goes back to 2010, you kind of look at trends, and I try to lay a pencil on there and say, well, what is the trend? If you go back to 2010 and lay a pencil on there, and I can see a kind of a lower angle of a line going up through 2023, I can also pitch it along like the 2017, 19, you know, other, and say, is it a steeper one? Where is our off years? So just trying to think, you know, do we have a few busy years, and what's it going to look like down the road coming up for us, you know? And I thought, you know, why not ask Google, or in that sense, Excel, and had Excel draw a trend line. And I know the numbers on the bottom are kind of small to see, but this was through 2030, so looking at like to the next time we'd have our next millage. And it's kind of interesting as I looked at that, because you look at those years, there's a few that were kind of right on, but it seems like we had some, you know, some spikes, and we had some dip below, but that according to Excel says that's kind of what the trend line is going towards. So. And we had a few low years, the 2020, 2021, those areas we had COVID, where we kind of shut down and our numbers dipped, but then the following years we spiked because I think everybody waited a year to get their ailments taken care of. So now are we leveling back out? But we still saw, again, an increase this year. So Always a common question, everybody kind of wonders when we're busiest, and you look at that, it's not like we have a real crazy day, we're not too far off across the week, but it is interesting to say Saturday is our slowest day, followed by Sunday. So Monday to Friday are meat and potatoes, and for some reason we start the week and we end the week busy. We also ran data for hours of the day, and that's what below is. Everybody's hopefully familiar with military time, but you know, 00 at the very beginning is midnight, and 2300 is 11 p.m. as we go through. And look at there, you see anywhere we start midday, that 9 o'clock hour, all the way up to about 4 or 5 o'clock, we can average pretty busy time. So a lot of that relates to some traffic issues maybe. I don't see that at all there. A lot of it can be medically related. I'm not sure what is exactly, but I have a heat map a little later too to kind of show you where we run a lot of our medicals at. So any questions on days of the week or times of day? So here's the heat map, and I only ran it on EMS calls. So in the past, what we've done is we divide the township into quadrants, with the river kind of being the north-south divider for us, 84th Street being east-west. And the next slide after this, I'll show you kind of the totals, but what's interesting is you see the hot spots in the southwest corner that the red is, you got Legacies, and then in the, a little bit farther down there is the Station Creek, Crossroads Circle area, and then we have in the North Rogers Court, we seem to go to the Spectrum Corewell Health pavilions there, which is just interesting. People don't realize why we go to a doctor's office, but it's a way they start the medical process. They get in there, they don't have a lot of advanced care, they don't have high flow oxygen. Some of the things up till a few years ago, some of them didn't even have an AED. So if they need a patient that came in there that really needs to go to the hospital, they call 911. We first respond to, so we have the U of M, we have Corewell, and we have Trinity all that we go to. We take care of them until an ambulance gets there, load them up, and they go by ambulance. So we have some facilities in our community that do put a demand on our services. So.
Scott, you probably don't know, do you know if they pay property taxes? I know some medical facilities are exempt. Do we know?
I honestly don't know. I could ask. The one we would have to find out, we could probably find out for the Trinity one, but the other two are in the village.
Can you find out, Allison, just report back? I'd be curious. There's some medical facilities are exempt, like True Blue hospitals, and others are gray. It'd be interesting to know if they're paying our public safety millage. And
Yeah.
it's still a great service to the citizens who pay it from their homestead, but
Yep.
I'd like to know.
I'd like to see the calls on Davenport also, if we can do that.
Yeah.
I saw it's highlighted on there. It'd be interesting to see what that's been over the last 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah.
Just from
And actually, going forward, I think we can try to build it out. We can create a toggle or something to switch that to. We don't experience as many as we used to have there. The funny thing is, I think I can probably say this year, the calls we've had there have not been for patients. We had 2 different sprinkler issues. In the rec facility, some kid was able to throw a medicine ball. Those weighted ones high enough to knock the sprinkler off the ceiling and flooded the whole carpet area down below. Luckily, they stopped it before we got in the gym. Of course, for us, we get called to that because as soon as that sprinkler system's flowing, a flow switch says, hey, the water's flowing, there must be a fire, or somebody was working out. So we went to that, and then when we had really cold temperatures earlier on one of the buildings at 60th and Craft, they had an IT room that was, the IT rooms are almost external. They're like right when you walk to the front doors, and maybe not insulated well enough, but a sprinkler pipe froze and broke and flooded that whole area there too. So fire alarm, water flow related issues is where we've been there more frequently than necessarily like injuries or illnesses, but we've had our share there too. So.
Sounds like they're not studying in the IT room. Is the IT room where the servers are, or they're supposed to go there like a study room?
No, it's an area that students don't have access to. It's like like when you walk up to the doors, there's an external door to go into this room. It's heated. It's got like a rack and stuff in there. And like I say, it was covered with water. So, this is another one. I told you. So the north-south divider there is the river, and there's never a our southeast corner has always been the most rural area, as we all know. I think obviously due to population and whatnot. And then Northeast has never held a candle to the west side of the community, which again, that's where we see all of our growth, right? What I do think is interesting though is if you look, I don't know why I moved that 523 down on there, but the north and south quadrants flip back and forth. You know, it's not like one's always busy. It's just interesting every couple of years. They're 40, 60 calls apart. I think there was one year there were only 7 calls apart. But again, people talk about we have a lot of the villages is the southwest corner, and then the schools and stuff around there. That stays steady, but we got a lot of commercial growth going in the. We have M6 for accidents and stuff up on the northwest. So again, year to year, they're kind of back and forth. But you can see 2023 we had 500 calls, and we've dropped down quite a bit in the northwest corner, and then southwest has been more popular. So then this is just a breakdown of what we're running, and then again, like I said, our meat and potatoes are EMS calls. I'd say almost a little over 3/4 of our calls. A false alarm is an example of, like I just gave you, where a sprinkler system went off. It wasn't supposed to go off, something happened, or we've had people vape inside of a building that sets off a fire alarm, you know, things like that. So we were called and it wasn't truly an issue. Good intent is somebody drives by that car that's in the ditch in the middle of the night, it's got 8 inches of snow on it, and calls it as an accident. We go out and make sure somebody isn't in there and hurt. You know, you'd hate to have that if there ever was, and we get there and put caution tape on it, then they know it's been checked. Hazardous is an instance where it's not necessarily like chemicals. We only had 2 fuel spills, like at gas stations, where people walked away from their pumps and left 10 gallons on the ground, and we put soak up down and stuff, where a lot of those also are power lines down when they have those in the community.
What percentage is that? It doesn't show.
Oh, sorry.
My guess is 7.
Yeah, it was
about
low.
It's close to false alarm.
Yeah.
I don't know how that got cut off.
I didn't add all the numbers together.
But yeah, it's pretty low. It's right around that. And then service calls are where we're going out and actually smoke alarms. Somebody calls in, they think they have something going off. What are we going to do that? And as mentioned, I think prior years we're with a program in the state of Michigan now, so people need smoke alarms. We'll actually install those in their home when we're out there. And then actually fires to say, again, we say we're a fire department, firefighters, 82 fires, and like I say, of those 82 fires, most of those are our neighboring communities. They're not, a lot of them are ours, so. Leading to that, this is all the agencies we worked with last year, and I can honestly say this is the first year that I ever recall doing this, that we helped all of our neighbors more than any of them helped us. In the past, it's been, you know, we go this way more and other people help us, but the big calls where we need help on, I believe we only had 2 structure fires in Caledonia last year, so that's a good thing. That's where we call for a lot of help. Our neighbors have a lot more than that. Layton was a building fire, and we don't go there very often. Lowell was a big building fire that actually called, both those calls are for a ladder. One was for a structure fire, and the other one was for a special needs child had climbed a tree so high that they couldn't get to them, and the branches were so small, and we actually used a ladder to get the child down. So Kentwood is also, the 2 calls are for our ladder truck to Roscam Bakery. But anyway, any question on that so far? And everybody understands the difference between mutual aid and automatic aid. Automatic aid is something that's put into CAD. So like right now, if there's a fire in Caledonia Township, I've already told Kent County to call, based on where it is, call these 3 neighbors. And they're sent the same time we are. We don't waste time with getting on scene, driving there, seeing, oh yeah, it's a fire. Let's get some more help here. That's how we used to do things. With technology nowadays, it doesn't make sense. So some of these calls, same thing for us. Our neighbors called us and we never even got there. We got trucks started, pulled out of the station, got going, they got on scene and like, oh, the house isn't on fire. Somebody's got a bonfire in the backyard that threw gasoline on it. People thought it was on fire, you know, disregarded. So, oh, you're looking at, yeah. So anyways.
How many of those were at my house?
Yeah. So mutual aid means we've asked for help. We've got there and we need more than we have. Automatic means they were sent before, you know, we even asked for them. always the thing that we monitor, and just to give you a heads up, we're still staying at point. So this literally means even if it's 2 medical calls that overlap, it just means we don't have enough staff available at that point, because even our 2 that are here can't be in 2 places at once if they go on a call. And it never fails. Caledonia has a thing about we're all or nothing. It's either Tuesday, Monday afternoon. Right at 2 o'clock, our guys left for medical, and then a minute and a half or 2 minutes later, we had another one at the exact same time. And I went to that one by myself, and we had a couple people come in and help me with that. And while we were in that one, another one came. So we sit here, we have nothing all morning, and then 3 medicals drop at the same time. It seems like that's how we roll. But stays pretty steady where we don't have, and that's 200, where those calls are, that's like, you know, if you figure they break that in half, because what's truly overlapping is, there's a secondary call we don't have enough people for, so it's like 10% of the time, 1 in 10 times. These are our trucks. We've started to switch things around. We have more people here. We're running our Medic, which is a $60,000 pickup over a $600,000 engine as much. So if we have staff where we know the truck will get out for a fire alarm or something like that, we're running that out first. And I think for the most part, everything's been pretty steady. You can see with the tender, the ladder, brush trucks, they're kind of specialty units. They only go out on certain things. I joke about it because the guys asked me, they said how my numbers went down. I drive the car one. I said, well, I had a 6-week sabbatical in the summer, so that's what I'm going to count my numbers down there for that vehicle. But anyway, we have, for the most part, like I say, been staying pretty steady there, and we're working to try to get time off the big trucks if we can and put them on the smaller ones as much as possible.
What's the next truck on the list that we have,
Replacement.
yeah,
So it's the tender 78, which I can go back to that one. That's the interesting with that is that truck is, it's got a pump on it, but it's 3,000 gallons of water, so we run that on non-hydrant house fires. That's our second out the door, or potentially a neighbor calls for it. Like if we have a house fire, we ask all of our neighbors to send their water trucks first, so it would be first out if we went to help on a structure fire. Trying to get more bang for a buck, the truck we have on order is the same as our engine 71 and 73 with 3,000 gallons of water on it. So the idea is we can take that first out the door on a non-hydrant structure fire, because we have a problem timely getting 2 trucks right away. Why not just take 1? So I think the new one will roll more, because for the money we're putting into a truck of that magnitude, it's not gonna just sit in the station. So, yeah, so Tender 78 is the one. It's a 2001 Freightliner that is due to be replaced. This is just a breakdown of, like I say, about that shows 63% of the time we're able to handle everything we have with the staff we have in house. The 2 that are here 24 hours a day, we don't have any problems 63% of the time. And then the other is when we have to rely on paid on call to come in. So, we're always asking for money. I'm not afraid to stand here and ask you guys, or ask, the government if we can. So, we got an AFG grant, which will be coming soon. We're still working on getting kind of drawings and stuff laid out, figuring out how we're gonna connect. I'm working with Todd, the engineer, for the sprinkler system, this $95,000 grant. We have to have a dedicated water line. It can't be the building's one. So that means we have to come from across the street into the building. Started talking with Todd about that, and it got much more complicated than I was expecting. So we're trying to get our head wrapped around that, because he said there could be some upgrades necessary for this building. It might be a good time to do that. And I'm like, well, hang on, because my grant does my project. But so we're trying to talk that out before we get quotes and stuff on how that's going to go. But that was awarded, and we just haven't basically cashed it in yet, because we haven't started the work on that. We just ordered, the last board meeting, you approved the contract for the PPE, which is our turnout gear. We got $24,500 from the state. Just had the crew fitted for that on Tuesday, so that is going to go be, as soon as we get the gear, we'll cash that one in. Caledonia Farmers Elevator has been great with us. They recognize they provide a risk to the community with the spaces that they have, so every year they have funds available through different grants. We write and ask them, and we're buying technical rescue equipment through them, and then they let us train there. We asked for It's a fire prevention and safety digital training prop. It's kind of cool. It's a digital fire screen that you put up, and it's got a nice nozzle and hose to simulate fire that we're going to use. It's a dry way to pretend you're fighting fire inside the house. I know better than to ask for $31,000 to buy something like that out of our coffers, but if we could get one funded for us, we said why not. So again, we asked, we were not denied. So, but anyway, still had another pretty good year. I think we've been able to pull a lot of grants lately and keep doing so every year. So. Fire prevention, this is, we're going out in the community. I'd like to say we're hopefully doing our work. I think the demographics of the community has changed a lot. We don't have as many people heating with wood stoves anymore, or having the occasional Thanksgiving fire in the fireplace and having cleaned the chimney. You know, we used to get a lot of chimney fires. Most people that heat have an outdoor wood boiler now. Just that we have a lot of new homes, a lot of new construction here. So we're hoping it's working. We're also out installing smoke alarms in buildings. We're going to, anytime there's a community event, I've already talked this year to Camp O'Malley, the library. We have events scheduled this summer where every chance we get to be out and talk to people in the community about things like that, escape plans, smoke alarms. We're doing it every chance we get, and everybody knows when we're there that if something happens, we leave. And again, that happens sometimes as well. But yeah, so I think shows up there, 41 homes were visited last year where smoke alarms were installed. And again, if that can get people early notification, get out of the house, and we get there and find out that we don't have to go inside necessarily, or possibly they're able to get there soon enough to put a fire out, it's all helping. So, and then the inspection side, I didn't get too many details from our inspector on that, but for the most part, he's daily going out on new construction that we have, verification with the building department, looking at different things. But this is just an update on stuff he's found that was an error. We had 2 firefighters get through the fire academy last year. We had 2 get their EMT, and you can recognize one up there, guy's black helmet. That's training when you're fully signed off to work shifts and do everything around here. Be one of the 2. And interesting enough, like I say, it's kind of crazy. It's because when we get to the point where they have the fire 1 and 2 and the EMT, that's kind of your pass to get hired pretty much anywhere then, you know. So it's hard to say that we put effort into people and we get them trained up, and we know that if we don't have a full-time spot for them and somebody else does, rumor has it Byron is going to be adding 6 to maybe 9 positions this summer. So there's not a lot of people in the area, you know, sitting there waiting, so it's pulling farther and farther. But yeah, every time there's a big hire, we feel a hit. So I heard Plainfield's possibly hiring 2 is more, and we could lose 1 that way too. So training that's just showing a little bit of extrication. The trucks at the top is water flow. We were practicing for a large scale non-hydrant incident. It's kind of a small picture, but you see the porta tanks down. That's Thornapple's new truck they got last year. We were flowing 2,000 gallons of water a minute out of those porta tanks up there working at farmers in their parking lot. When we flow that kind of water, we need the infrastructure to do it, and they have a great big parking lot that's usually they'll block it off, not putting cars anymore for us, and they have the sewer to accommodate that kind of water that we're putting on the pavement. We did a training at Davenport, as you can see there, working on the ladder there, practicing going up the roof there, and then the far right upper corner is actually in the elevator, looking down one of the grain bins, I believe, where we had a mannequin stuck down in one of those bins one night, and we used all of our ropes and equipment like that and got them out of there. And that's it. So, if, like I say, any feedback or any questions you'd like to see differently for next year, Dale, I'll definitely note yours about Davenport and see what kind of data I can pull together for you on that.
Chief, how do you feel about your staffing? Do you feel like, I mean, you said 63% of the time we are covered.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at a business model, I mean, it's probably getting pretty light as far as that goes. The hard part for us is what people generally visualize with the fire department is, well, we have this pager in our belt. The problem with it is we're having hard times getting people to come back with a pager, and that's why I'm putting that report we get. Sometimes we get, 6, 7 people, but more times than not, you get the busiest days and times of the day where we have it right now, and luckily we have myself and the fire inspector on during the days that we're taking the overlapping calls, additional calls. But if one of us was off for the day, which happened the other day, Brad was gone. I was just just me. I mean, we do run thin, and that's even when we go on fires, stuff like that. We get out on stuff. So I think if you go back in the 80s when they asked people for staffing, the department says, "What's your worst day scenario?" And somebody says this, and that's what everybody staffed for. And then we went through recession and stuff like that. It's got to be like, what can you just get by with? And that's become the norm. And what's happening is a lot of places are getting back now and saying like, we're flirting with, you know, disaster a little bit. And like I say, I got things I'm working on because I'm really trying to see with things we can save with cost on trucks and things like that, where we can go with things. I've had a little talk with Greg too, or saying like, you know, there's some things we can do differently. The need now is for people, and we're worried about one of the biggest elephants in our room is our ladder truck. You know, to replace that truck right now is $2 million, and it's like it goes out 50 times a year, and it's like we have the need in the community because of the buildings we built, but is there something else we can do there to get more people in? And you know, so that's really what I'm working on right now, is trying to think outside the box and see how we can do that, because I will, every time I find a chance where we can afford to add another person, it's the people that make the department next door, not the trucks or the building. So
Thanks.
Thank you.
Got
Thanks, Scott.
a real quick one too. I'd be interested in average call response times.
Okay,
and
yeah.
how that's going year to year, and, you know, as we've staffed up more, is that declining some, or the, you know, the call volume still is significant?
Okay.
And then, maybe a brief response on coordination that you're doing with MDOT, as it's one lane in much of 2026. How are you gonna get north and south, and what does that look like, especially during the peak hours, but probably all day? I think it's just gonna be jammed up with lower speed limits.
Yeah, and you know, the interesting thing is when we've had some of our preliminary meetings going to the MDOT deal, I've kind of said to them, they said they're gonna have like a trailer or something like that. I'm like, wherever that person is, I need to have my shift phone number inside of there, whatever they're doing each day, because we found when we work with county and everybody else, 68th Street, we've always been told, yep, we'll always leave a lane free for you. We were driving 84th Street when that was being done as well, because if anybody happened to venture down there, was under construction, we had to even pay attention to what side of the street the address was on, because we weren't guaranteed to be able to turn the driveway, because there was points where it was 4 feet difference from one lane to the next. So, and then they'd pile gravel maybe in the road or something. There'd be a lane, but I mean, it was really, we were very fortunate we didn't have any fires and stuff like that in there, but we were trying to keep up with Kent County as they were doing that, and it starts out good, and then it kind of withers out. So I'm hoping the job trailer is in this area somewhere here where we can stop in and talk with them. But I have requested MDOT keep us strong in the loop, and we'll stay on that. Call response, I will say this, and it kind of goes back to Joni's question about even we're at staffing. If we have an after hours call where our truck has gone out on a call, we have another medical, our response times have significantly increased to the point where our dispatcher will, if we go 5 minutes without somebody calling on the radio in a truck, they'll call us again. If nobody answers, they call a neighbor, which is starting somebody from a neighboring community, obviously. Generally, if I'm not going from home, because I have a truck with a radio and getting service from that home, we can't get people from their homes, from where they live in relation to the station, and get a truck in service to take the second call within 5 minutes. So that is a concern, but it happens, you know, if it's 1 in 10 times, how many of those? And I can try to look at that data too of I think your response times you're probably saying is a little better, because our second truck out, even on structure fire, is we're rolling dice. Is anybody coming from work to come back and get a truck, or is nobody around? So I'll definitely pull that for you.
Okay, any other questions for Chief? All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, sir. All right, item 10B, to approve the personnel manual revisions to support the mandated Earned Sick Time Act requirements, which is an ongoing issue here in Michigan. Allison, you want to walk us up to, I guess, the current hour of what's going on?
Absolutely.
Sorry, still.
Let me see if I can get this document select back on the screen. So The Supreme Court in Michigan approved ESTA, but it's been being debated in the House and Senate up until the 11th hour. There's still rumors that the governor could say, let's postpone it until July. However, in its current state, it is slated to take effect on Friday, the 21st of 2025. Part of that means that we need to update our personnel manual to be in compliance with the state requirements. The new ESTA requirements require that for every 30 hours worked, an employee earns 1 hour of earned sick time. And this, our current system works for full and part-time staff. However, this legislation includes all of our inspectors, all of our election workers, and irregular employees and paid on call. So when we looked at the hours, the state said you could front load the 72 hours, or you can do it as they accrue every 30 hours. They get 1 hour. For us, our staff works 36 hours a week, so it makes sense to just count the hours. And our payroll system, Stephanie, she can track that. But the challenge is that how do you track building inspections? How do you track paid on call? That was where we kind of ran into some legal questions about how do we handle this. We were told we have to have our inspectors now count the hours they're there. I think the same for paid on call. We do not have to pay out ESTA, but we have to track it and we have to give it. One of the other issues with this regulation is that our employees, they don't have to tell us that they're out sick until the 3rd day they're gone, which is very concerning. You know, if we have a staff member who doesn't show up and we can't check in on them until the 3rd day, and we can't do anything about it either, mainly because we want to make sure that they're okay. So I think that our manual covers, our PTO covers our full-time and part-time staff. It's our irregular election workers, inspection people, and paid on call that this really, we had to update this for. So what our thought process is let's get the revisions in the personnel policy manual as dictated by the state, and we can always have it held off if the state decides to postpone it, just so that we're in compliance. So we're asking the board to approve the proposed changes if the legislation goes into effect on the 21st of February. A lot.
Anything to add? Addition? All right.
It's gotta be done.
Make a motion to approve.
I got a question.
Well, read the actual suggested motion. Or,
Yep.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I know what we're voting on. I want to make sure I understand it. Is that with the ESTA, does that include, is there any changes such as it can overlap into the next year with sick time?
It has to carry over legally. However, if an employee leaves, we don't have to pay it out. It just has to carry
Okay.
over.
All right.
So you want me to make the recommendation on page 2?
no,
Nope, on the bottom of this front one.
oh, no,
On the bottom of
I'll
the-
do it, Greg.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make a recommendation that we approve the revisions to the leave policy within the personnel manual, that the approved revised leave policies are not effective until the Michigan Earned Sick Time Act goes into effect.
Support.
So basically, if they change it,
Yeah.
these don't change. Okay, that is an understanding and discussion from board members. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Thank you very much. I have a feeling we'll be hearing more about this in one way or another. Item 10C is to approve Blaine Mechanical Maintenance Contract for the Township Hall and Fire Department at $2,245 annually. To contract the library's commercial HVAC with Hulst HVAC services at $2,400 annually. Allison, for these items?
Absolutely. So originally, when I brought these to the board, we put it on pause because we wanted to make sure that Blaine Mechanical, they gave us the lowest quote, but we had concerns, Greg and I had concerns that if they were able to handle our commercial units at the library, they came back and said, you know what, we were going to subcontract them, but the person who subcontracts is getting out of the business. So we asked Quality Air and HVAC to give us a quote just for those services. I reached out to Siemens too, but what you'll notice is that Siemens' contract for everything is $214 cheaper. However, the reason that we're kind of looking at other bids is because we've had a really, really hard time getting them to come back for service calls. We've had service amounts that are where, you know, we question the actual amount. That's why we're recommending to go with a different HVAC provider, and the reason that the recommendation is for Halls HVAC services at the library and Blaine Mechanical for the rest of the township facilities.
Questions, Greg, the initial?
I'm okay trying Halst for the library commercial air handlers and see how it goes. And if not, then we can go back to,
Siemens.
you know, we can go back to a quality air. We have not had good service with Siemens. So whatever price Siemens was not gonna be a recommendation on my part to use them. So I'll make a recommendation.
I agree with you.
I'll make a recommendation that we go with, Blaine for all the library, or all the, HVACs except for the commercial in the library, and we go with Halls for that, so Blaine at $2,245, and then Halls at $2,400
Support.
per year.
Move and support that we approve Blaine Mechanical contract with Township Hall and Fire Department at $2,245, and that we contract the commercial library HVAC with Halls for services at $2,400 annually. That is our motion. Thoughts? I can see Mr. Bradshaw thinking.
I was just gonna say, I have a lot of HVAC contacts from the county, and none of them bid on this work. They're bigger companies that they may not wanna drive down here for 1 or 2 sites, but, I'd be glad to share those contacts if we ever bid this out again.
Okay.
Absolutely.
This is an annual, so we'll, might be seeing it for renewals and consideration of new bids. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. And 10C is approved. And 10D is to consider and approve longevity pay. I know this has been an item of discussion before the board. Allison's refined and distilled it a little bit, and then now she's given us a couple options of a set amount based on years of service, or a percentage of base pay at service anniversaries. Allison, you want to walk us beyond that?
Absolutely. So one of the discussion items that we spoke about was who should qualify? You know, who would get longevity pay? Should it include paid on call? Should it include part-time or full-time staff? My recommendation is that part and full-time staff are absolutely included, but I did want the board to decide who they want, if they wanted to include paid on call or Gary and the assessor, the manager. I'm only at 2 years, so I've got a ways to go. But so I want the board to decide who they want to include in the longevity. And then in addition, the other part of the conversation was should it be a set amount or should it be based on a percentage of base pay? Because there was discussion if a part-time employee should be getting the same as a full-time. And I think that the way that it kind of works is that if you do the percentage of base pay, then they get, it's 1% of whatever their base pay is. So if we have somebody who's part-time who makes $20,000 a year, then they're making 1% of that. At 10 years, 15 years, it's 1.5. And it doesn't necessarily say like, okay, you started at, you only collect this when you become full-time. It just measures what their pay is at the time they reach that longevity bonus. I do think, you know, any staff that was paid on call that became full-time, or even we could consider paid on call staff as well. I'm a big advocate for this. We don't have a bonus structure at the township, so I think it's a really great way to say thank you to our employees. My recommendation is that it's in 5-year increments starting at 10 years, and then anybody who would be like 12 years would get that 10-year bonus, or for example, if they're at 27 years, that they would get the 25-year bonus, but not anything before that, and then keep moving ahead based on that. And again, I do want to say, it is in the back of my mind, merit-based pay, but this is kind of the first step to getting there and appreciating the staff. So I want that to be a separate conversation, but it's still a conversation that will be had.
Okay, thoughts from board members?
I think our paid on call should be included on this.
Okay.
Now, our inspectors, our contract workers, they make an astronomical salary. Now, Gary should be included, but not our individual inspectors. That's my suggestion. And then I also think we should make it, at 10 years, it's 500 or 1%, whichever's higher. And 15, 20, all the way through. They talk about full-time and part-time. Pretty much every one of our employees that have been here long-term, we're part-time employees until a certain point.
Absolutely.
So how do we separate that out? I don't think we should. I think we should reward, been on call with 15, 20 years. I mean, it takes a lot for people to stay. So my recommendation is that we include all employees except the inspectors themselves because they're paid a pretty high salary, and including paid on call. And it's, in each one of these categories is the set amount or percentage, whichever is higher.
Okay, that's for discussion.
I'm not a fan of the, whichever's higher. I do think it sets a, if somebody's 5 years or 10 years here and it's part-time, it's 1% is 1% of their pay, and so they're getting the same advantage that full-time is. It's just, they're not working as many hours, so the pay is gonna be 1% of what they get. I still think we should do that. That's my impression, in my opinion of it.
I agree.
How would we set base pay of a paid on call? It's gonna vary from year to year.
Correct.
You just take the previous year? Okay.
Chief's got some.
If I could just interject something.
Yeah.
I personally, I think as an employee too, I like where you're going along lines, because I'll be honest, you could have somebody that's been on call that's say name on the roster for 20 years. And we have one guy that, last year, was on his second year with us, maybe third year, and as paid on call, he made $39,000. Because he was running calls, scooping up shifts, whatever, so in the idea, if you took a percentage of what people are putting in, their bonus comes based on what they put in. That just, my 2 cents, because it is, paid on call is interesting, because people have different highs and lows in life. Kids are busy somewhere else, but if you take it kind of across the board where they're at, it does show our ones that are really chipping in and coming a lot, and the people that are not, percentage would show that on the report, but that's just my 2 cents.
Right. Any thoughts from board members on making it retroactive in the sense that you could be at year 14, we're gonna pay you for your 10-year, and then next year you get year 15, so it's like a double bang?
I think that's fair.
That's
yeah.
fine?
We gotta start somewhere, I mean, you know.
Okay, got it? Just
Yeah.
making sure.
And the idea too is that bonus will be paid on the paycheck following their anniversary.
Okay.
So, I mean, right now it'll probably be that check will go out to anybody based on where they are, starting at 10 years and above, but then moving forward, Stephanie can put it in the system so that on the anniversary it flags and.
I know at Amway they do profit sharing and it's taxed weirdly, like,
You're gonna get taxed,
Hugely.
well.
it's like
this is-
40%. I mean, it's a huge hit, when it's not earned income, so I guess.
This is income. It's just not as high, your bonuses.
You're not an IRS, I'm telling you, it's income to me too when I get a bonus check, but a lot more of it's gone when they take it
Yeah,
out of the bonus
because
check.
you go to a higher tax bracket.
Oh, okay. So this would be the last dollar in for them too, so I'm saying they're gonna get whatever tax bracket they're in, that chunk taken out, but I think bonuses might even be paid higher. Just telling you, when I get a bonus and you think you're getting X, it turns out to be 0.6 of X, and it's.
I agree. I think what that is, it rectifies itself when it's all done. You're still gonna finish the year if you didn't make over X amount at
Right.
25% or 35% or whatever it is. It's gonna zero into that number on a totality standpoint, but the bonuses are always like, holy cow. So,
All right, is there a motion then? We've had discussion, points raised. Does someone want to put it in the form of a
Could
motion?
I just have some clarification
Yep.
on, who? Cause we said full and part-time employees and paid on call, and Gary?
Yeah.
The building inspector,
Building
The building inspector, but not
inspectors.
the other inspectors.
not the.
Should it be building official?
Building official.
That's technically.
Okay,
his
yeah.
title. Yep.
I guess the other one you would have to consider is probably not for election workers, or would you like to include on-call staff?
Well, I don't mind
I don't mind,
election
if
workers.
we have election workers,
1% of what they
yeah,
pull in
if
for
we have
work in
an election worker
elections
that's
is
done
a
for 10
nice.
years, I'm all for that too.
Yeah.
So it's election workers,
what about, planning? What about, board of review? Like we have,
They're
Butch Welton has
employees,
been doing
right?
it for 30 years. So is it all employees? I
And
think,
certainly can't do township board members, let's start there.
Right.
Because our compensation has to be stated in a resolution and it can't have any bump, so we're off the docks.
but you can do the planning
Planning
commission.
commissioners. Well, anyone with an employment status, my goal would that we move inspectors, especially because of the ESTA stuff and this, that we see if we can make them independent contractors. And there escapes a lot of this. So if we just say all employees, but currently that's going to grab inspectors. So do we want to say all employees other than inspectors? Is that really where we're at? Why do we hate the inspectors so much?
I
No.
think they're great, they just have really good comp already.
Well, they're getting, so they get $48 and they can do 4 or 5 in an hour. So they get to set them up per inspection.
We just have to figure out how to word it. I mean, where it's not
Well-
except, you know,
You're right.
Minus.
We listed as a positive, these are the ones that qualify for it, period,
All right,
not the ones that
and
don't.
we're going with the percentage. period.
Yes.
And only, we should be pretty clear, if somebody has multiple jobs, they only get 1 bonus.
Who has multiple jobs?
Well, you know, you have, you know, you could have, in the future, our fire inspector could take over as building official too.
Okay. So it's on there, so, well,
Well, I would say it's just.
Per employee.
Per employee, 1 per
Right.
anniversary date, based on their date of their hire.
all right. I'll make a motion to approve longevity pay for full and part-time employees with 10+ years of service, based on a percentage of base pay with those between the categories being paid the previous anniversary year as well, excluding building inspectors.
Support.
Boy, that was good. I was thinking how to make that motion.
It's written down. So, all right, that is a motion. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Item 11, public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comment? Newest member of the fire department?
Thank you, trustees.
You bet. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Mary, for supporting the service.
Yeah.
Appreciate it very much.
Mr. Clerk, thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Chief.
All right, board member comment.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Nothing tonight.
I have one quick discussion item, or at least we can get back on it, it's not urgent, but Community Green, we have people who rent it, take the community concerts, and we, in the past, have allowed them or turned an eye to when they put up a banner on the pickleball courts that community members, when they visit, will know that these events are oncoming. But now the Chamber of Commerce starting to utilize Community Green, for instance, Brews on the Green, and other events, they want to be able to place a banner as well. But then we get into what if, so currently our policy is no signs. And we do, like I said, turn a blind eye, or the weekend before you see the yard sign type, signs pop up in corners. But should we have a policy, or an allowance to policy? So staff are not allowing, giving permission, to place signs, which is our current policy. So they do it without permission. So the question is, if they're renting the community green, it's open to the broader community, it's an open to the community event, should we define a policy that allows them to advertise at community green? What are the upsides and downsides of that? So don't need an answer, snow's still on the ground, but before a thaw, and we start looking at these events, it might be nice to find something that can accommodate these sorts of events. But then, I'm having a Trump rally or an anti-Trump rally, and it's open to the public, and I want to put up a sign. So do we navigate what goes on there, what doesn't go on there? So
We're good at the Sharks and the Jets.
yes,
I think that's for the 2 and.
when you're a Jet for life. So, all right, roll. So just putting it out there, but thoughts, please send me an email if you have any. That's any from you, Madam Clerk?
None for me.
Mr. Zoller?
All set.
All right,
Move to adjourn.
Support.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
Brian.
We are adjourned.